Good evening. My name's Piers Blaxter, and I would like to talk to you this evening about the forthcoming local development plan. I have to admit that I'm not that used to presenting to an audience such as this, and so will ask for your tolerance during the presentation. First of all, I'd like to just determine how many of you actually heard of the local development plan before. First, I thought we'd have a bit of fun by doing a quick poll to see whether I'm talking to people who have encountered the local development plan before, or whether this is all new territory for you. What I would like to do for the next 15 minutes or so is to give you a quick presentation on the local development plan. A little knowledge on this topic will take us a long way, so I will start by describing what we think a local development plan is. The Scottish Government are now asking us to deliver a new style of local development plan, different from those prepared previously. So even if you're not familiar with how we prepared the existing local development plan, you're in the same position as we are. We are still not entirely clear on how we're going to produce the next generation of plan. I will then outline our best guess as to how we think we should be preparing the next new style local development plan, what the key milestones in the process might be. Finally, I will just like to touch on the big question for this evening: how should we engage with young people on the next local development plan? By the time we're finished, you should have some idea of what a local development plan is. You should recognise why it is important to you and hopefully recognise why you should be engaging with us. This will set us up for a conversation on how and when engagement with young people such as yourselves might be sought and how you can take part in that process. So what exactly is a local development plan? I think you can look at it in two ways. First of all, it's very much a statement of vision, drawing up collectively through an extensive period of engagement, tries to reconcile what the future might look like. It's perhaps the only public statement that is made and agreed that considers what a future Aberdeenshire should look like, what qualities it should demonstrate, and what kind of place it will be. The local development plan sets out that vision for the future of our neighbourhoods for the benefit of all. I've listed here a few of the major topics that we will have to take a collective position on within the plan. They are important and meaningful for the future that you will inherit. The local development plan may have to deliver a sustainable development pattern that conserves and enhances the best of what we have, but at the same time reconciles this with the need to promote development to meet needs. It also has a very practical role because the development plan is a legally binding set of rules and regulations that will govern decisions to allow or refuse planning permission for new developments. Judgments will have to be taken in preparing the plan as to whether we are pursuing a utopian ideal or a dystopian world of opportunity. The local development plan will have to lie somewhere between these two extremes. And through engagement, a judgment will need to be applied. Balance will have to be achieved between the goals of meeting needs within the constraints of existing services or allowing new developments where that infrastructure can be provided. The ideal position would be a plan that embraces environmental sustainability but accommodates necessary development that contributes to the character and amenity of the area. So, why might the local development plan be of importance to you? Well, if we start now, then we reckon we'll probably be finished in about 5 years' time. The plan itself will last for 10 years. The next plan will have a big influence on the character and amenity of where you work and live in the future. And so, from our perspective, who better to ask than the people who will inherit that future? We also know that sometimes vested interests can eclipse common sense. Frequently, my generation fails to see the big picture and concentrates only on the immediate and short-term benefits. Our experience is that young people have a much greater interest in issues such as sustainable development than the older community, and yours is a voice that needs to be heard. The Scottish Government has found that development plans, as we've prepared them in the past, have not really been fit for purpose. They've introduced a whole set of new reforms into the process, which are designed to achieve a whole host of improvements. The ones that might be of particular interest to young people, we feel, might be the issues requiring us to embrace the climate change and biodiversity emergencies, the requirement to do things more digitally, and increasing the amount of consultation and engagement that we undertake. Also of particular note is the change to a specifically place-based approach, dealing with the issues of places rather than presenting policy rules to govern all eventualities. All of these have a direct relationship to how we want to engage with young people. So, What will these new style local development plans look like? This slide shows the process that we have to go through. It's a long and tortuous process, and it can be really quite confusing for those who aren't familiar with it. But fundamentally, the first step is to produce an evidence report, an encyclopedia of all the information that we need to justify the local development plan. This will be a major new step for us, and we have to engage on its preparation. There are still questions about this engagement that we are seeking views on. Our conclusions on what the evidence collected might mean for places then has to be audited by the Scottish Government, who will look to resolve any disputes that are identified. Following on from that, we have a call for ideas stage. This is a general request to both the development industry and to communities and other stakeholders to give us ideas on how you think we should be resolving the issues that we've identified in the evidence report. It will include proposals for allocations of land proposed by the development industry. Following on from the call for ideas, we finally get on to the proposed local development plan. This is the first draft of the plan, approved by Aberdeenshire Council councillors, on which a full formal public consultation takes place. Once we have received the responses to the proposed local development plan, we can then look to reconcile and negotiate away the objections to try and find some sort of compromise and resolution to allow a modified proposed local development plan to be produced. The final stages of the process are the public examination of everything we've done in the 4 years up to that point, and where the Scottish Government assesses outstanding objections and advises us whether we can take the plan forward for adoption. So yes, a long and tortuous process. While we're still a little bit hamstrung at the present time because the Scottish Government have only produced draft regulations and they may change, this slide demonstrates the timing that we think we'll be following for the production of the next local development plan. You will see that the first stage, the evidence report, is probably going to take place during this year and most of next year. The call for ideas is probably going to be at the end of 2024, and the proposed plan we hope to publish in 2025 for examination and adoption by the end of 2027. During this process, we also have to undertake a number of parallel assessments to make sure that the plan is as good as it can be, including a strategic environmental assessment, a habitats regulations assessment, a flood risk assessment, and a thing called the DPM tag, a transportation assessment. One of the very first things that we have to do in preparing the local development plan is set out our proposed programme month by month in a thing called the development plan scheme. This contains a participation statement that effectively sets out when we're going to be undertaking the engagement and the form that it will take. This slide shows when we expect that engagement will take place. We expect to be consulting on the evidence report over the next 19 months. You may also be involved in the preparation of local place plans, prepared by local communities to feed into the call for ideas in 2024. And the proposed plan we would hope to have ready for consultation around the autumn of 2025. So, what's all this got to do with you, I hear you ask? Well, we think you have a unique perspective that you can bring to the local development plan. First of all, you have a special relationship with the places that you live. Adults will be not going to the same places that you go, and you will have a different lived-in experience in your environment than your parents. That's valuable information for the evidence report. Good ideas are not restricted to old fogies like me. Good ideas can come from anyone. There are specific topics that we could receive help with. For example, we have to undertake a thing called the place space sufficiency assessment as part of the evidence report to identify whether there are appropriate areas for young people within our open space complement. This isn't just about nodding ducks, but it's about all the places where you might congregate after school, where you might meet to kick a ball around or chat. Where do you go? Where are the important places in your community for you to hang out? Finally, I would stress again, it's your future we're discussing, and consequently you have an absolute right, and perhaps an obligation, to be involved in that discussion. I'm not going to pretend that for us engaging with you isn't going to be difficult, because believe it or not, I was once young, but I'm probably not young anymore. There are some very interesting issues that we as planners have to deal with in terms of engaging with young people. How do we draw you into the conversation? How do we attract your attention into this important subject? How do we make it sufficiently interesting for you to interact with the development plan process? Should we just be treating you as young adults and expect you to engage with us in the same way we're engaging with everybody else? What are the tools that we should be using for engagement? Would a series of TikTok videos be of any use? Should we be trying to introduce games into the process to make it mildly interesting? There are all sorts of different ways in which we can engage with you, and we're really not clear about what those best ways might be. So what do we do now? We are very keen to collect your views on how we should be engaging with you. We have some ideas, but I'm not going to say that they are entirely correct at this time. We're going to share this video on YouTube. Perhaps you could share it with your friends and promote the local development plan as something that young people should be taking seriously. We've also set up a general online survey to give you some time to think about the issues I have raised and give us the benefit of your views. Again, it's an open survey, and we would appreciate if you could share the link with others. In this survey, we are asking a number of key questions related to the issues that we've shown you this evening. How do we engage with you? That's the key. Questions that we are struggling with at the moment are whether you should be treated as young adults or whether you have specific needs that need to be addressed. How do we identify what topics you might be interested in and include you when we undertake our target consultation on topics within the evidence report? Are lots of short consultations on specific topics better than one big consultation? I think I've just about exhausted my welcome here, but I'm more than happy to answer questions or enter into discussion with you at this time. I hope it's been an informative presentation, and I look forward to seeing you all responding to our questionnaire. Thank you very much.